Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses today.
Wait, listen.
Professor Sarin, you're a professor at Yale Law School?
I am.
Okay. And I see you've been pretty active on Twitter. I'm looking at one of your tweets from a few months ago, October 30th, 2023. I'd like to read it to you. The House Republican stance is, I kid you not, support for Israel as long as we make it easier for people to cheat on their taxes.
Watch this carefully, because this Yale professor just exposed exactly what's wrong with the elite academic bubble. She tweets something wild about Republicans, then admits she didn't talk to a single one of them. You feel that? This is like judging a book without reading a single page. Hell no. This right here shows how these ivory tower professors think they can just make up whatever they want about regular Americans from their comfortable offices. And you know what's scary? These people are teaching our next generation of leaders with this same arrogant attitude.
End quote. Did you tweet that?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. How many Republican congressmen or women did you talk to before you made that statement?
I was reacting to the fact that, and we've talked about it actually
Yes,
so
ma'am,
far
but
in this.
first, if you could, how many Republican congresswomen or congressmen did you talk to?
I didn't talk to them. I actually was just reacting to the legislation that was proposed.
You
and
didn't talk to any of them
No, sir.
before you said that every single one of them supports Israel only if it is made easier for people to cheat on their taxes?
I actually don't think that every single one of them believes
But
that.
that's what you
But I
said.
do think that the legislation passed by the House reflects a statement of purpose that in order to support Israel, it's
But I'm
important
looking at
to
what you said.
allow
what your
taxpayers to
students
be able
saw.
to cheat on their taxes.
You said that every single House Republican, none of whom you talked to, would only support Israel if it was made easier for Americans to cheat on their taxes. Now, you said that, and you didn't talk to any of them.
Senator Kennedy,
Didn't.
I am struck by, and perhaps this is something on which we agree, that it is incredibly important to support Israel. It is also incredibly important to make sure that taxpayers at the top of the distribution
we agree on
pay their
Israel,
fair
but I
share.
just can't believe you would say this about members of Congress. It's pretty pejorative, vicious. Let me finish. Without talking to them. I mean, would it be possible for somebody to support a reduction to the IRS budget because they simply believe the federal government ought to have a balanced budget? Would that be a fair position? Would that be a principled position?
Except that that actually doesn't work with respect to defunding
But would
the
it be a
IRS.
principled position?
It wouldn't be an accurate position because
Okay.
defunding
But you don't
the
know because you
IRS
didn't talk to anybody, did you?
Well,
you just said it.
Defunding the IRS, the CBO agrees, everyone who's testifying today agrees that that is going to add to deficits, not reduce
Could it be that a House Republican wanted to reduce the IRS's budget because they think that the IRS is a model of inefficiency and shouldn't be rewarded with more money?
Well,
Could that have been a possibility, a motivation for the way they
Senator
voted?
Kennedy, I so appreciate that question because the reality
Could that have been
that the
a
reason-
motivation for the way they voted?
and it relates very closely to what Senator
Could
King
that
said,
have been a motivation for the way they
reason
voted?
that you've seen an inefficient
Could that have
IRS,
been a motivation
If you allow
for
the
the way they
witness to
voted?
answer, you might get your answer, Senator
it
Kennedy.
frankly couldn't have been.
It
because
could or couldn't?
It could not have been.
How do you know you didn't talk to them?
Because the reason why you've seen
You
an
just
IRS
made this statement that
hasn't been
every Republican in the House supports Israel only if it has been made easier for people to cheat on their taxes. Could it be that maybe a House member thought that, well, the more money we spend, the more deficits we have, and the more deficits we have, the more pressure is put on interest rates, and the higher interest rates go, the more it hurts the poor. Could that have been
Senator
the position of one of the House Republicans?
Senator Kennedy.
Could it have been theoretically?
Couldn't have been, because
Could it,
everyone
it couldn't have
agrees.
been?
It frankly couldn't.
How do you know? You didn't talk to him.
Well, I know that everyone agrees, including witnesses across the aisle, including CBO, including every single tax expert that has contemplated this question, that defunding the IRS makes deficits worse, not better. And so this is a deficit
I just find it,
measure.
Professor, appalling that you would make a statement like this, a vicious statement like this, without talking to a single person about whom you made this statement. And I'm going to remind you, you can only be young once, but you can always be immature.
Here's what's fascinating. This MAGA senator just delivered the academic smackdown of the year. And it wasn't even about politics. It was about basic respect and doing your homework. Think about it. If one of her Yale students made claims without talking to a single source, what grade would they get? This is exactly why regular Americans are fed up with elite institutions. Professors demand rigor from their students, but don't apply the same standards to their own Twitter hot takes. That's just plain dumb.
And you ought to think about that.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Let me just say that I think that the treatment of witnesses is beginning to degrade a bit here. And I'm going to strike some commentary if it continues down this road. I think personal insults to witnesses are not appropriate, and I will not be tolerant of that in this committee.
Well, could I respond, Mr. Chairman? You're going to
fire away. I think you just called a
you're
Yale
going to
Law
do what
School
you got to
professor
do,
immature.
but I'm going to continue to use my time. You bring witnesses as you're entitled to, and some of them are very good. Some of them have the credibility of Michael Avenatti, and I'm going to use my time when I think it's appropriate to test.
And I'm going to use my authority as chairman
to test
as
credibility,
I think it is appropriate
witnesses'
as well,
credibility.
in
So
order
you
to
do
keep
what you
order
got to do, and I'm going to do what I got to do.
good behavior in
But
a
if that
Senate
is meant
committee.
to bully me, you're talking
No
to the
attempt to
wrong
bully
guy.
you. No attempt to bully you, none at all. It's to keep the witness and the committee free of bullying.
I'm entitled to test their credibility, and I think one of our witnesses just got tested.
I hope I passed, Senator. Thank you.
You didn't.
Notice what just happened here. The professor tried to be snarky with that "hope I passed" comment, but it completely backfired. Why? Because this isn't some Ivy League classroom where she gets to grade everyone else. This is the real world, where you actually have to back up your claims with facts. You get me? This right here is why people don't trust academic elites anymore. They think their credentials give them a free pass to say whatever they want without consequences. Hell no!
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start at the outset. I'm an accountant. I value audits. My wife was an IRS auditor, so we need that. There's no doubt about it. Okay, you can argue legitimately, to what extent, how many auditors, how much we should spend on it. That's legitimate conversation. I do have to admit, though, every time I hear the chairman or the chairman of the Finance Committee say the word wealthy tax cheat, I think of the name Hunter Biden and all of the Biden family members who have been participating in his influence peddling grifts. I think it's interesting, as much as this hearing is emphasizing on audits, that when Senator Grassley and I were conducting our very legitimate investigation using our constitutional responsibility of oversight, when we were investigating tax cheating, influence peddling, money coming in tens of millions of dollars from foreign entities to impact potentially U.S. policy. Democrat senators, our ranking members, not only frustrated, I would say obstructed our investigation by falsely claiming we were soliciting and disseminating Russian disinformation. Now, that just happened to parrot what we've now found out the FBI set up their Foreign Influence Task Force, what they were doing in their catch-and-kill operation, find derogatory information that was being developed by 40 confidential human sources, and then go kill it. go say, no, don't look into that. Don't go down that investigatory hole, because that's Russian disinformation. So the question I have based on that, Professor Sarin, it's obvious we have a dual system of justice applied to tax compliance. When somebody is connected politically as Hunter Biden, when his investigatory team allows the statute of limitations to expire on the most serious tax evasion charges, what does that dual system of justice, what does that do in terms of taxpayer compliance?
So, Senator Johnson, I actually want to take a step even higher, but with your sort of
Quickly, please.
Theme of democracy and heart. In this country today, we have a two-tiered tax system, as you acknowledge. Your constituents who are wage earners are already paying everything that they owe, and a very small proportion of very wealthy individuals and large corporations have the opportunity to
Okay, and that was your testimony. Again, I want you to speak to the fact that the president's son is largely skating because they allowed the statute of limitations to run. What does that do to compliance in terms of Americans' attitude toward that, Professor Hendren?
Judge, welcome.
Thank you.
You are probably the least productive member of your district court, isn't that right?
Well, I have not considered myself in those terms, Senator.
Well, let me explain what I mean. You have 125 motions pending that you've declined to decide.
Well,
Let me finish. That's more than any other district judge in the entire Seventh Circuit. In fact, you rank 7th highest nationally, do you not?
I am not familiar with those statistics, Senator Kennedy.
You haven't looked?
I did look in preparation for this hearing, but I didn't compare myself to others.
You haven't seen that you ranked the 7th, the worst in the country in terms of making decisions?
You are the first to tell me this. And I think for me, I stress the quality of my decision-making. And as I explained, I came on, I was the first district judge to come on during this administration.
Yeah, but so were all the others. I mean, there have been 68 district judges confirmed in the 117th Congress. In terms of motions pending for more than 6 months, you rank number 3. You all came on at the same time. You all had the same problems with COVID. You're the 3rd worst. You really think of all the other district judges in the 7th Circuit, you're the one that ought to be promoted based on this record?
Senator, this is something that I've discussed with my fellow judges. Many of us new judges from...
I thought you said you'd never looked at these statistics.
I haven't, these particular statistics I am not familiar with. But in terms of new judges, both from the current administration and the former administration, we are quite a collegial bunch. And oftentimes talk about the pressures of a new judge and the way reassignments work in our district, which is that you get, for example, 300 cases.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. I'm familiar with the procedure in federal court. Here's what I'm trying to understand. Why is your record so bad?
Well, I don't view it that way, Senator. When I look at the quality of my decision-making, the feedback that I get from parties,
Of course parties are not going to criticize you. They want you to rule in their favor.
I understand, Senator Kennedy.
I mean, that's just the way it works. Help me understand why you have such an abysmal record in moving cases. I mean, it costs a lot of money to litigate, and people are paying lawyers, and time is money. And of all the district court judges in the Seventh Circuit, you're the worst in terms of moving cases. Why do you think you deserve to be promoted over all of those others?
So, Senator, again, I'm not familiar with the statistics, but I stand by my record and that I give parties what they need. I think, I am regularly in my courtroom. I am regularly issuing decisions. I just came on at a very difficult time where there was a backlog in the courts.
So did everybody else. Let me ask you, when you were a partner in your law firm, you volunteered to write a brief on behalf of the Brady Center. You wrote the brief, and this is what you said. You volunteered for this. You weren't being paid. Is that right?
This was a pro bono case that one of my partners brought in, yes.
You said, quote, assault weapons may be banned because they're extraordinarily dangerous and are not appropriate for legitimate self-defense purposes, close quote. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Just to clarify there, I was local counsel. Our Supreme...
Yeah, but you wrote the brief. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Senator Kennedy, actually, I did not write the brief. The brief was written by...
You signed the brief, though, didn't you?
Correct. I signed the
When you
brief.
sign a brief, you're testifying to the court that everything in it is true, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That, and I
So they're your words in terms of the court, right?
well, you're correct, Senator Kennedy. I would never
So tell
sign...
me what you meant by assault weapons.
So I am not a gun expert, and at the time, that brief, I think, was about 10
You
years...
were giving the court advice about, say, ban assault weapons. What is? You told the court you were an expert. Just tell me what you wanted to ban.
Senator, sitting here today, as I said, I did not write that brief. I was local counsel.
Sign the brief.
I understand. At the time
Tell
that...
me what you wanted to ban. That's all I want to know, Judge.
I don't remember the exact definition of assault weapons in the ordinance that was at issue.
So you submitted a brief to an appellate brief. You signed it, and you don't know what. And you said abolish assault weapons, and you don't know what you wanted them to abolish.
Senator, at the time that I signed the brief, I read the brief because our Supreme Court required an Illinois bar member to sign the brief. I was not responsible for researching the content.
You were responsible for the brief. You signed it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sitting here today, I do not remember the characteristics of that were cited in the ordinance for the assault weapons ban. It's not an area of practice that I have specialized in. I'm sure 10 years ago I could have answered your question.
And
but
Judge,
sitting here today,
you think you deserve to be promoted?
Look, here's what's crystal clear after watching this. The disconnect between elite academics and regular Americans isn't just big, it's getting bigger. These professors think they can tweet whatever they want about millions of Americans without ever talking to a single one of them. If this video made you think, damn, he's spitting facts, smash that subscribe button because we're going to keep calling it like we see it. No filter, no BS, just real talk. Drop your thoughts below, especially if you caught any other wild claims from this professor that I missed. Peace out.